A message came through the darkness of space like a dying whisper. It was weak, broken, but unmistakably a call for help. Captain James Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Thunder, humanity's newest battleship. His crew had been on a routine patrol near the edge of human space when their sensors picked up the signal. The communication officer, Lieutenant Anna Torres, turned to him with wide eyes. "Captain, this isn't from any human ship." "The language?" "It's alien." Miller walked to her station and listened. The voice coming through the speakers sounded desperate, even though he couldn't understand the words. But the universal translator was already working, piecing together the meaning. "Please ... anyone. Our colony is under attack. They are killing everyone. We have children. Please help ... The bridge fell silent. First contact with alien life had happened 20 years ago, but humans had mostly kept to themselves. Earth's government had built a powerful fleet, not for conquest, but for protection. Now, someone out there needed that protection. "Can you track the source?" Miller asked. "Yes, sir. It's coming from a system about 10 light years from here." The Vega system. Miller knew that system. It was home to the Kolari, a peaceful species that traded with humans occasionally. They had never asked Earth for anything before. If they were calling for help now, things must be very bad. "Send a message to Fleet Command," Miller ordered. "Tell them we've received a distress call from the Kolari colony. Request permission to investigate." The response came back faster than expected. Admiral Robert Hayes himself appeared on the main screen. "Captain Miller, we're receiving the same signal at headquarters. The Kolari are being attacked by the Drakarn Empire. You know what they did to the orbital mining station last year?" Miller's jaw tightened. The Draken had killed 300 human miners in that attack, claiming the humans were in their territory. Earth had wanted to respond, but the politicians had held them back. "Sir, are we authorized to engage?" Miller asked. The Admiral's face was grim. "The Kolari have formally requested our help. The President has authorized full military response. Captain, you're closest to their position. Hold them off until the main fleet arrives." "One ship against the Draken fleet, sir?" "No, Captain. 3 more ships are within range. The USS Storm, USS Lightning, and USS Tornado will join you. Captain Tom Wilson is already moving to intercept." Miller felt a surge of confidence. 4 of Earth's best warships might be enough to make a difference. "Understood, Admiral. We're moving to assist." As the connection ended, Miller turned to his crew. These men and women had trained for this moment. Earth's fleet wasn't the largest in the galaxy, but human military history had taught them something important. It's not about the size of the fleet, but how you use it. Navigation. "Set course for the Vega system, maximum speed," he commanded. "Weapons. I want all systems checked and ready. We're going into combat." The weapons officer, Commander David Brown, nodded sharply. "Sir, should we prepare the special packages?" Miller knew what he meant. Humanity's secret weapons, things that other species considered too dangerous or unstable to use. Nuclear missiles, antimatter bombs, and worse. Humans had learned to weaponize almost everything. "Prepare everything," Miller said. "The Draken want to prey on the weak. Let's show them what happens when they threaten our friends." The USS Thunder's engines roared to life, pushing the massive battleship toward the stars. In the void of space, 3 other human ships changed course, all heading to the same destination. The Kolari had called for help, thinking they were alone in their darkest hour. They didn't know that humanity had been waiting for this moment. Not because humans loved war, but because they hated bullies. As the fleet raced through space, Captain Miller looked at the stars ahead. The Draken Empire was about to learn why Earth's military motto was simple but effective. We protect our own. The stars had indeed heard the call. And Earth's deadliest fleet was responding. The Vega system was burning. Captain Miller stood frozen for a moment as the USS Thunder dropped out of hyperspace. Where once there had been a peaceful Kalari colony, now there was only destruction. 3 massive Draken destroyers hung in orbit around the planet, their weapons firing continuously at the surface below. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Torres. "They're not trying to conquer. They're exterminating them." Miller's hands clenched into fists. Through the view screen, he could see the beautiful blue-green world of Keller Prime, scarred with fires visible even from space. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were nothing but smoke and ash. "Sir, the other ships have arrived," reported the navigation officer. 3 flashes of light announced the arrival of the storm, lightning, and tornado. Captain Tom Wilson's voice came through the communication system immediately. "Miller, are you seeing this?" "I see it, Tom. They're committing genocide. Not on our watch. All ships form attack pattern Delta. Let's introduce ourselves." The 4 human ships spread out, approaching from different angles. The Draken hadn't noticed them yet, too focused on their slaughter below. That was about to change. Miller turned to Commander Brown. "Target the nearest destroyer." "Full missile spread." "Yes, sir." "Targets locked. Fire." 20 missiles launched from the Thunder, followed seconds later by similar volleys from the other human ships. The Draken finally noticed the new arrivals, but it was too late. The first missiles struck home, explosions blooming across the enemy ship's shields. The Draken commander appeared on the communication screen. He was a reptilian creature, 8 feet tall with scales like polished steel and eyes that burned with arrogance. "Human ships, you dare interfere with Draken business? Leave now or be destroyed." Captain Wilson's face appeared on a split screen. As the senior captain, he spoke for the fleet. "This is Captain Wilson of Earthfleet. You are committing war crimes against a peaceful species. Cease fire immediately and withdraw, or we will destroy you." The Draken commander laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 4 small ships against 3 Draken destroyers? You humans are more foolish than we thought. All ships, destroy these pests. The space between the 2 fleets erupted in violence. The Draken ships were huge, each one 3 times the size of a human battleship. Their plasma cannons could melt through most shields, and their armor was legendary. But humans had not come to space unprepared. Evasive maneuvers. Miller shouted as green plasma bolts streaked past the Thunder. "Return fire, all weapons." The human ships danced through space with surprising agility. While the Draken ships were powerful, they were slow. Their commanders had never faced an enemy that moved like humans did. Unpredictable and chaotic, the USS Lightning lived up to its name, diving straight at a Draken destroyer while launching torpedoes. The enemy ship tried to track it, but Captain Lisa Park pulled up at the last second, her torpedoes striking the destroyer's engines. "Their rear shields are weak." Park's voice crackled over the Commandant. Miller saw the opportunity. "Thunder and Storm, concentrate fire on their engines. Tornado, keep the third one busy." The battle raged for 20 minutes. The Draken ships were tough, their shields absorbing tremendous punishment. But slowly, steadily, the human weapons found their mark. The first destroyer's engines exploded, leaving it drifting helplessly. Then Miller made a decision that would be remembered in history. "Commander Brown, arm nuclear warhead Alpha 7. Brown's eyes widened. "Sir, that's a 50-megaton warhead." "I know." "Target the damaged destroyer." The Draken commander must have detected the weapon charging because his arrogance finally cracked. "You wouldn't dare use atomic weapons in civilized space." Wilson's voice was cold as ice. "You lost the right to talk about civilization when you started bombing children." "Captain Miller, you are authorized. Fire." The missile streaked through space, small and unassuming. The Draken tried to shoot it down, but human electronic warfare systems jammed their targeting computers. The warhead struck the damaged destroyer and detonated. For a moment, a new sun bloomed in the Vega system. When the light faded, the Draken destroyer was gone. Not damaged, not disabled. Gone. Vaporized. The remaining 2 Draken ships stopped firing at the planet. Their commanders stared in horror at the empty space where their comrade had been. The human fleet regrouped, weapons trained on the remaining enemies. Miller opened a channel to the Draken. You have 10 seconds to retreat, or we'll use the rest of our nuclear arsenal. We have plenty more where that came from. The silence stretched for 5 seconds. Then, without a word, the 2 Draken destroyers turned and jumped to hyperspace. Asterisk. The moment the Draken fled, Captain Miller's attention turned to the planet below. Smoke rose from dozens of cities, and the communication channels were filled with cries for help in the Kalari language. "Get me a status report on the surface," Miller ordered. "How bad is it?" Lieutenant Torres worked frantically at her console. "Captain, I'm detecting approximately 2 million life signs, but the planet's population was listed as 10 million. The bridge fell silent. 8 million dead in less than 3 hours. Captain Wilson's voice broke through on the fleet channel. "All ships, prepare for immediate rescue operations. We need medical teams, engineers, and security forces on that planet now." Miller turned to his crew. "I want every shuttle we have loaded with medical supplies. Dr. Johnson, prepare trauma teams." "We're going down there." Dr. Emily Johnson, the Thunder's chief medical officer, nodded grimly. "I'll need every medic we have. The burn victims alone will be—" "Take whoever you need," Miller interrupted. "Torres, can you raise anyone in the Kalari government?" After several tense moments, a weak signal came through. The screen showed a Kalari female, her large eyes filled with tears. The Kalari looked almost human, except for their pale blue skin and slightly larger eyes. This one had burns on her face, and her official robes were torn. "This is Governor Mira of Keller Prime." Who are you?" "Governor, I'm Captain James Miller of Earthfleet. We've driven off the Draken. We're here to help." The governor's eyes widened in disbelief. "The humans came? But we never signed a defense treaty. We have no formal alliance." Wilson appeared on the screen alongside Miller. "You called for help. That's all the treaty we needed. Governor, we're sending down medical teams and supplies. Where do you need us most?" The governor broke down crying. "The capital city." They targeted the hospitals first. "We have thousands of wounded and nowhere to treat them." The children's sanctuary was hit. "There are so many children trapped. "We're on our way," Miller said, already moving toward the shuttle bay. "Hold on." 20 minutes later, Miller stood in what remained of the Kalari capital. The destruction was worse than he'd imagined. Buildings that had looked damaged from orbit were completely gutted up close. The streets were filled with debris and the wounded, but what struck him most were the Kalari themselves. Despite everything, they were trying to help each other. Adults carried injured children, families shared what little water they had, and even the wounded were trying to tend to those worse off. "Captain," Dr. Johnson called from a makeshift medical station. "We need more supplies. The burns are severe, and many have radiation poisoning from the Draken weapons." Miller activated his communicator. "Thunder, send everything we have. Strip the ship if you have to." As the day wore on, more help arrived. The 3 other captains had landed with their own teams. Captain Park had her engineers working to restore power to the city. Captain Wilson coordinated with surviving Kalari military to maintain order. Captain Michael Roberts of the Tornado had his people digging through rubble, searching for survivors. Then Miller heard something that made him stop. From beneath a collapsed building came a sound, children singing. It was a Kalari song, weak but unmistakable. "Over here." He shouted, "I need diggers here now." Human and Kalari worked side by side, carefully removing debris. After an hour of careful work, they broke through to a shelter. Inside were 30 Kalari children with their teacher, an elderly Kalari male who had kept them calm by teaching them songs. As the children emerged into the daylight, many of them seeing humans for the first time, there was no fear in their eyes. One small child, no more than 5 years old, walked up to Miller and took his hand. "Thank you for saving us," she said in broken English that she must have learned from broadcasts. Miller knelt down to her level, fighting back his own emotions. "You're safe now. We won't let anyone hurt you again." The teacher approached, tears streaming down his face. "When the bombs started falling, I told the children that someone would come. I didn't know if I believed it myself. But you came. Humans came. As the sun set on the devastated world, the rescue efforts continued. The human fleet had saved thousands, but the cost had been terrible. Yet in the midst of tragedy, something had changed. The Kalari had called for help from anyone who would listen. Humanity had answered, and in doing so, had announced to the galaxy where they stood. 3 days had passed since the battle. The USS Thunder's shuttle bay had been converted into a refugee center, with hundreds of Kalari families taking shelter there. Captain Miller walked among them, checking on their condition. The entire human fleet remained in orbit, their crews working around the clock. They had saved over 1 million survivors, but the planet's infrastructure was destroyed. It would take years to rebuild. Miller found Governor Myra in the Thunder's conference room, studying reports with several human officers. She looked up as he entered, exhaustion clear on her face. "Captain, your people haven't stopped. They work 18-hour shifts, share their own food rations, and I've seen your soldiers crying with our children. Why? Why do you care so much?" Miller sat down across from her. "Governor, humans have a long and bloody history. We've been both the oppressor and the oppressed. We know what it's like to face extinction. When we finally made it to the stars, we promised ourselves we'd be better. But you barely know us. We've only traded simple goods. You didn't need to be our allies for us to help. You needed help, and we could provide it. That's enough." Before Myra could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Lieutenant Torres's voice echoed over the intercom. "Captain to the bridge. We have incoming ships. It's a Draken battle fleet." Miller ran to the bridge, Governor Myra following. On the main screen, space itself seemed to ripple as ship after ship dropped out of hyperspace. 30 Draken vessels, including 2 massive battleships that dwarfed anything in the human fleet. The Draken Supreme Commander appeared on screen, his scales darker and more scarred than the previous commander. "Human vessels, you have committed an act of war against the Drakon Empire. You destroyed one of our ships and interfered with our rightful conquest. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Captain Wilson's face appeared on the fleet cone. "All ships, battle stations." "Miller, any ideas?" Miller's mind raced. 4 ships against 30. The odds were impossible. But then he remembered something from Earth's military history. Sometimes the impossible was just another problem to solve. "Tom, remember the Battle of Thermopylae?" Wilson's eyes lit up with understanding. "The hot gates. You want to bottleneck them." "Exactly. The asteroid field at the edge of the system. We can't fight them all at once, but in their they'd have to come at us in small groups." Wilson turned to his crew. "All ships follow the Thunder's lead. We're making a tactical withdrawal to the asteroid field." The Draken commander laughed. "Run, little humans. It will only delay your destruction." But as the human ships moved toward the asteroid field, something unexpected happened. Dozens of signals appeared on the sensors, ships dropping out of hyperspace behind the human fleet. But these weren't more Draken. "Captain, Torres said, her voice filled with awe. "Those are Kalari ships, and ... and Yorlan vessels, and Terex cruisers." The screen split to show multiple alien faces. The Yorlan ambassador, a crystalline being that sparkled with inner light, spoke first. "We heard what the humans did. They saved the Kalari when no one else would. We stand with Earth." The Terex admiral, whose species looked like large mantis creatures, clicked his mandibles. "The Draken have terrorized the galaxy for too long. The humans showed courage. We will show solidarity." More and more ships arrived. Species that had never worked together. Old enemies putting aside their differences. All because humans had answered a call for help. The Draken Supreme Commander's arrogance wavered. His fleet of 30 ships now faced almost 60 vessels from a dozen different species. Captain Wilson stood up on his bridge, his image broadcasting to every ship in the Allied fleet. "Supreme Commander, you came here expecting to find 4 human ships alone. But our actions have shown the galaxy something you never understood. Strength isn't about conquest. It's about protection. It's about standing up for those who can't stand alone." Miller added, "You have one chance. Leave now and never attack another peaceful world, or face the united fleet of the free galaxy." The Draken commander looked at his tactical display. His ships were powerful, but the Allied fleet had him surrounded. More importantly, the humans had nuclear weapons and had shown they would use them. "This isn't over," he snarled. "The Empire will remember this." "Good," Wilson replied. "Remember that the galaxy is watching. Remember that tyranny will always face resistance. And remember that Earth's fleet will always answer the call." The Draken fleet turned and jumped away, leaving the Allied fleet victorious without firing a shot. Asterisk. 1 month later, Captain Miller stood in the newly constructed council hall on Keller Prime. The building was simple, built from the rubble of the old capital. But it represented something profound. Hope Dot representatives from 15 different species had gathered. Some, like the Yorlan and Terex, were major powers. Others were smaller civilizations that had lived in fear of empires like the Draken. All had come because of what happened here. Admiral Hayes had arrived from Earth with 10 more ships and a delegation of diplomats. He stood beside Miller as Governor Mira approached the podium. "1 month ago," Mira began, her voice carrying across the hall, "our world was dying. We sent a call into the void, not knowing if anyone would answer. The humans came, not because we were allies, not because we could pay them, but because it was right." She paused, looking at the human delegation. "Captain Miller and his fleet didn't just save our bodies. They saved our souls. They reminded us that good still exists in the universe." The Yorlan ambassador rose, his crystalline form catching the light. "The humans have proposed something unprecedented, a mutual defense alliance, not based on species or territory, but on a simple principle. Those who need help will receive it." The Terex admiral clicked his agreement. "My people are warriors. We respect strength. But the humans showed us a different kind of strength, the strength to protect rather than conquer. We will join this alliance." One by one, representatives stood to voice their support. The Free Galaxy Alliance, they would call it. Earth would provide military leadership. The Yorlan would share their advanced technology. The Terex would train ground forces. And each member would contribute what they could. But not everyone was happy. A Draken spy, hidden among the refugees, transmitted everything back to the Empire. The Supreme Commander received the news with rage. "They think their alliance makes them strong," he hissed to his generals. "We will show them the price of defying the Empire. Prepare the entire fleet. We will crush Earth itself." Back on Keller Prime, the celebration continued into the night. Captain Miller found himself standing outside, looking up at the stars. Dr. Johnson joined him. "Thinking about home?" she asked. Thinking about the future, Miller replied. This alliance changes everything. For the first time, the smaller civilizations have hope. But the Draken won't accept this. There will be war. Then we'll fight, Johnson said simply. That's what we do, isn't it? We fight for those who can't. A young Kalari child ran up to them, the same one Miller had rescued from the rubble. She carried a small flower, one of the few that had survived the bombardment. For you, Captain, she said shyly. My teacher says flowers mean hope. You gave us hope. Miller knelt and accepted the flower, tucking it into his uniform pocket. What's your name? I'm Luna, she said. My parents named me after Earth's moon. They said it was beautiful. It is, Miller agreed. And someday, when you're older, I'll show it to you. Earth will always be open to your people. As Luna ran back to her teacher, Admiral Hayes approached. Captain, I've received word from Earth. The President is awarding you and your crew the Star of Terra, our highest honor. It wasn't just us, Admiral. Every human who came here deserves recognition. They'll get it. But you made the choice to answer that call. You could have waited for orders, played it safe. Instead, you risked everything. Miller looked at the recovering city around them. Already, human engineers were working alongside Kalari builders. Human doctors were training Kalari medics. Children of both species played together in the temporary shelters. Admiral, when we left Earth, people asked why we needed such a powerful fleet. They said we were paranoid. That space was too vast for us to make enemies. What do we tell them now? Hayes smiled. We tell them the truth. Space isn't too vast. It's too small for tyranny to hide. We built this fleet not to conquer stars, but to protect them. And today, the stars know that when they call, Earth will answer. The two officers stood in comfortable silence, watching the first new buildings rise from the ashes. Above them, the Allied fleet patrolled the skies, humans, Kalari, Yorlan, Terex, and others, united in purpose. The Draken Empire thought they ruled through fear. But humanity had introduced something more powerful to the galaxy. Hope backed by nuclear weapons and the will to use them. The stars had heard the call. Earth's deadliest fleet had responded. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. The end asterisk.